Major League Baseball season is about to start, and you can bet, no offense to Shohei Ohtani, that I was going to make a video about it for the first time ever. In years past, I haven't made any sort of preview videos or anything like that. The only sort of baseball-related videos that I've done have been Hall of Fame or not, where it's more about individual players. I also did a video about mascots a couple years ago, but this is really the first video on this channel that I'm going to make where I actually look at current MLB players, and I'm going to rank the 10 most overrated Major League Baseball players in 2024. Why am I doing this? Because negativity always attracts more attention. Let's begin, shall we? Number 10, Andres Gimenez, Cleveland Guardians. There's no doubt that Gimenez is a wizard with the glove, as he's won 2 gold gloves in each of the last 2 years, and therefore he's accumulated a lot of WAR. No offense to John McCain and Dick Cheney. But you see, my issue with Gimenez is that after a stellar 2022 season where he had a 141 OPS in addition to his incredible defense, he fell all the way down to a below average hitter. He had a 98 OPS plus last season, hit just 251, yet he still got a bunch of WAR because he led the league in defensive WAR. Now, I have to be honest with you, offensively, wins above replacement, I can understand. Defensively has always been a little bit more murky for me, and I think that for the most part, obviously, you don't want a guy who's a complete sieve out there in the field, but when you really look at it, there's plenty of great players that have played that weren't good at defense, and it didn't matter. Nobody gave a shit because they were so good at hitting. I feel like good defense paired with crappy hitting is not as impactful as great offense paired with crappy fielding. And so I feel like Gimenez, is he going to be the 2022 version or the 2023 version? As of right now, I would say he's still living off a bit from that 2022 season, so I think he's overrated right now. But he's still young, okay? He's still young, so not saying he's a terrible player or anything, but he might be a little bit overrated because of some of the defensive metrics. Number 9, Blake Snell, San Francisco Giants. Blake Snell, it seems like he's younger than he is. He's 31 years old. It seems like he's still in his 20s. He looks like he has the suds. Blake Snell, he doesn't finish games. And I know that they're in this day and age, you got everything's pitching by committee, and you got your openers, and you got your long relievers, and you got your closers. I get all that, okay? But this is a guy who, he'll get you 6 innings and then boop, nothing. I'm sorry, but that's just kind of stupid to me. And I do frown upon it. And besides just that, Snell, for all the attention he's gotten, and he's won 2 Cy Young awards, he has 2 dominant seasons, which was 2018 when he won his first Cy Young, and 2023 last year with the Padres when he won his second Cy Young. And in both those years, he led the league in ERA and ERA plus. Other than that, his career has basically been pretty average at best pitching. He's been a pretty average at best pitcher outside of 2 random monster years. So are the Giants going to be getting the 2018-2023 version, or really the rest of his career, who had a league average OPS plus and doesn't go long into games? So I feel like he's overrated for multiple reasons. He still needs to prove that he can stack great seasons back to back, and he's basically just a glorified long reliever instead of a starting pitcher. Number 8, Jordan Montgomery. Montgomery has just signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Of course, as we all know, he was traded to the Texas Rangers and was a big part of their title run last year, the World Series, if you remember that, which a lot of people seem to forget about. I'm just paraphrasing what somebody told me, a friend of mine told me. He said that Montgomery is basically a lefty who heavily relies on being lefty. He doesn't walk guys. He doesn't strike out guys. He doesn't throw hard. He has an average ground ball, fly ball rate. He's built for 25, 30 years ago, and similar to a Tom Glavine mold. And, last season was his best season, a 138 ERA plus. After he got sent to the Rangers from the Cardinals, he really did well, had 160 in 11 starts. But yeah, he's just kind of, for his stature, and you would think that he would be a big strikeout guy and that he would be able to get through the order quicker than he does. And he's just not able to, he doesn't do that despite his size, but he's a good pitcher. But again, and I have to state, overrated doesn't mean bad, but I do think that for his name and the fact he's coming off a World Series win and the fact that he just is getting a lot of attention in free agency, I think he is a little bit overrated. Number 7, Dansby Swanson. The one thing you can say about the former number 1 overall pick, well, there's a couple things you could say. 1 is that he's handsome. 2 is that he's very durable. And 3 is that he's overrated because he gets a lot of publicity. He's won back-to-back gold gloves. He's been an all-star each of the last 2 years despite very mediocre numbers. Offensively for his career, he has a below-average OPS plus. And some people are like, oh, who cares? Who gives a shit? No, this is baseball. These are finite. Everything in baseball, it's like there's only a certain amount of outcomes. And this guy, Dansby Swanson, he just is not a good offensive player. It might be similar to Andres Gimenez, where you got great defense, but what is it really worth if you're not producing much offensively? And the Cubs they're paying him over $27 million for the next 6 years. And it's like, why? I mean, that first overall pick pedigree is obviously playing a big role, but I just feel like this is a guy who he has a good glove in the field, but a 253 career hitter, doesn't hit for power. I mean, he gets you like 20, 25 homers, which isn't that much in today's age. Just not a great offensive player, despite the amount of money he makes and how big of a name he is, which largely has to do, I think, with the fact that he was a former first overall pick, but I think he's definitely overrated. Number 5, Mike Trout. Now, this is definitely not a career overrated pick. This is the fact that Mike Trout, he won MVP in 2019. 2020, he played 53 games, but that was the 60 game shortened season, okay? Then in 2021, and really this is where the reasons he starts to make the list. Mike Trout, since 2021, he played 36 games, so he missed about almost 130 games in 2021. In 2022, he missed about 40 games. In 2023, last year, he missed half the season. And for as great as he is, and he still is productive when he's playing, although 2023 was by far the worst year of his career, besides when he was called up in 2011. He had a 131 OPS, which is still good, but this is a guy who, for his career, has a 173 OPS, which is legendary. So he hit well below his normal standard. He's been injured. He's never been a great fielder despite his freakish athleticism. And the Angels are paying him $37 million for the next 7 years. Now, I know with Mike Trout, it's kind of like he's a cornerstone franchise guy. You don't trade him, but I think if you're the Angels, it's one of those things where if his production is going to keep declining, you might want to try and get rid of him so you can get some pieces back now that Ohtani isn't there anymore. It's an interesting situation, but the real question is he ever going to be healthy? Is he going to be consistently healthy again, or is he going to be this generation's version of Ken Griffey Jr., where the first 9 or 10 years or so are about as good as we've ever seen, and then the second half of his career is just sad and injury filled? Who knows? But that's what it looks like we're on track to be. He looks like he's going to be this generation's Ken Griffey Jr., which is just sad and unfortunate. But I don't know if he is no longer the best player in the world. He's not worthy of that status anymore, even though he still is probably the biggest name or one of the biggest names in the sport. He hasn't played to that standard in several years now because he's been injured and he just hasn't been consistent. Still, obviously, a first ballot Hall of Famer who can walk down the street without anybody recognizing him, which is a pretty good deal. Number 5, Evan Carter, one of the heroes out of nowhere of the Rangers' run to the World Series title last year. He's just 21 years old, and he had amazing numbers in the regular season, hitting .306, had .413 on-base percentage, an OPS of over 1,000, an OPS plus of 182. If he keeps up those numbers the rest of his career, he's going to be one of the 4 or 5 best players of all time. Unfortunately, now this is where the advanced metrics do come into play. He still technically is a rookie because he didn't meet the rookie standards last year. The big stat you want to look at here with Evan Carter is his batting average on balls in play. The league average on batting average and balls in play last year was .297. Evan Carter, in the 20 or so games he was called up in the regular season, hit .412. So he obviously had an outlier, super high batting average in play. I don't know if that's sustainable. It's probably not sustainable. That, and you compare that and you couple that with his postseason success, I think you're going to have a lot of guys who, that's not to say that he can't play, but you're going to have people that are going to be really pushing him for Rookie of the Year, and they might be disappointed because he falls back down to earth, the law of averages, in terms of, when the ball's in play. So I don't think his numbers are going to be as good this year. This is just a prediction. I think we're going to see a drop in his numbers, and I think that people will be disappointed. Although his numbers were so good that even if they drop, he still might be worthy of Rookie of the Year. Who knows? But I would pump the brakes on the Evan Carter hype if you're a baseball nut. So I think he's due to regress. Number 4, Spencer Strider. This one might be seen as controversial because Spencer Strider led the league in wins last year. He led the league in win-loss percentage, and he also led the league in strikeouts. But the thing is that despite all these things, his ERA really wasn't that great. He had a 3.86 ERA, which was just a 1.15 ERA plus, which is slightly above average. We all love strikeouts, and pitchers who strike out a lot of guys, they get a lot of publicity because, better to watch, I guess. I don't know. But he was better in 2022 in terms of of all the advanced metrics and stuff than he was last year. And let's be honest, everybody is striking out a lot. So the fact that he strikes out a lot of people isn't really, it's not a market inefficiency anymore where we have to find a pitcher who can strike out 250, 300 guys now. Those pitchers are everywhere. So I think that although he's still young and obviously he has a lot of potential, I don't think that his numbers are particularly impressive beyond the surface. I think you look at a guy contemporary like Zach Gallen is probably better than Spencer Strider. Number 3, Corbin Burns. Burns was a guy who was a free agent after spending 6 years with the Brewers. He is now with the Baltimore Orioles. He started out as a closer. Now he's a full-time starter. And his first year as a starter was amazing. He won a Cy Young Award. And then the next year was amazing. But every year since 2021, his numbers have gotten a little bit worse and worse. And I'm seeing, well, how is that going to translate to the Baltimore Orioles? Basically, he's trending the wrong way, is the nice way to put it in layman's terms. Last year, he had a 3.39 ERA. He had a 1.27 ERA plus. The year before that, 1.37. The year before that, when he won his Cy Young, was a 1.70. So in 2 years, he's gone from a 1.70 ERA plus all the way down to a 1.27 ERA plus. Now, that's still good, but he's getting paid a shitload of money, and he keeps declining every year. So I don't know. It seems as though maybe Baltimore, they're going to get a good pitcher, but maybe not the super duper star that they're expecting, the Cy Young Award winner they're expecting. I think that he is going to disappoint a lot of Orioles fans, if there are Orioles fans out there. I don't know. I don't interact with Orioles fans on Twitter or anything like that, but I think the last couple of years are telling us that he's on the downward trend. Number 2, Tyler Glasnow. Oh, look at him. He's so handsome. He looks like a Ken doll. Wow, wow, wow. We all know that the Rays are absolutely patient as hell with their pitchers, and the Rays gave up on him. So that's something interesting. The other interesting thing in the big part with Glasnow is that despite being a big name, he has been unbelievably undurable his entire career. The ERA plus, you look at it, he's already started this year. The season's already started. He has an ERA plus of, in one game. But then I'm looking at some of the years here. Okay, so the Rays got him 2019, he started 12 games. 2020, 11 games. 2021, 14 games. 2022, 2. 2023, he had 21. In his most durable season, he had a 1.18 ERA plus, and he's still known because he has like all the big waves, and it's like sunshine from Remember the Titans, whatever. If you combined his 2020 to 2022 seasons together, it still would not count as a qualified season, which is, it's bananas. So for a guy who, he has like Jacob deGrom type durability, except when Jacob deGrom is healthy, whenever he is actually healthy, he's putting up historic numbers. Glasnow is just kind of an average pitcher with great hair. That's basically it. So, like when the Dodgers signed him, it was like, oh my god, they got Tyler Glasnow. I'm like, who gives a fuck? He's mid, and he is made of glass. Like people call Anthony Davis like street clothes and Mr. Glass. Well, this guy is the real street clothes. And finally, number 1, Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber is the absolute epitome of home runs and nothing else. He is the Adam Dunn of this new era. Home runs, walks, strikeouts. That's it. He is Adam Dunn. Last year, batting leadoff, he hit 47 home runs, and he had a 122 OPS plus, which still isn't great. It's not dominant. You would expect a guy with 47 home runs and 126 walks to be absolutely dominant, but he wasn't. And plus, he's batting leadoff, and as my friends who are Phillies fans tell me, that the record for the Phillies is much worse when he is not hitting leadoff. Now, there's a bunch of old school, new school debate about you should get guys who have power, hit them first instead of the light hitting, guys like in the past. You got Ricky Henderson, Wade Boggs. Here's a stat from Ryan Spader. He's a big Phillies fan. He's like the biggest MLB stats guy on Twitter. What's up, Ryan? Now, here's what he said, and I'm going to just paraphrase what he said. He said, on average, the leadoff spot comes to the plate about 34 more times per season than the 3-hole, roughly 7.5 more games worth of plate appearances. Last year, Philly actually saw the leadoff spot come up with runners in scoring position 7 times more than the 3-hole spot last season in the leadoff spot. So basically what Ryan is getting at is that Bryce Harper should be batting leadoff for the Phillies and not Schwarber. And his point is that, and it might be just common sense, but his point is that every team should have their best hitter hitting first because you get more opportunities. And I can't say I disagree. It seems like a pretty simple explanation to me. And just for Schwarber, I mean, I just feel like guys like him, he like I said, he really is an Adam Dunn. Home run, runs, strikeouts, walks. And, you know, his ERA plus last season, he had the most homers of his career, but it was the worst ERA, OPS plus, pardon me, that he had in 3 years. You know, he's not the Phillies' best hitter. He might be their best power hitter, maybe, but he really is all or nothing, and he should not be batting first overall. And that's why he is my pick as the most overrated player in baseball, because everybody loves Schwarber because he's cool, because he seems like a good guy, but he is being misused, and the team is misusing him. And that's really more so, it's not all his fault, but like he should be hitting third or fourth as opposed to first. He also gives you nothing on the base paths. He's a terrible defender. He's not giving you any sort of variety with his hits. Now normally I don't care. You know, if a guy can hit home runs, that's obviously not a bad thing, but when that's all your diet, it's a problem. And that's why, despite all the home runs, he had an offensive WAR last year of just 2.8, which isn't that great. It's not bad, but it's not great, because he's under 200, hit 47 home runs, 41% of his hits total were homers, just very, very limited. And he actually had just 0.6 WAR in general, which is not good because his defense is that terrible. So he is my most overrated player in the league, although he does seem like a good guy to share a beer with.